Hello, beautiful souls. My name is Christy Godwin, and this is my podcast, Spiritual Talk with Christy Godwin and Friends. I'm your resident psychic medium, Christy Godwin, and I want to invite the beautiful Cathy Cacioppo. Thank you for being here. Now, Cathy is here to discuss something that is dear to my heart. I come across it so much in my life coaching. And we're going to talk about self-care and love and how you bring that into a relationship. How are you doing today, Cathy?
I am great. Thank you.
A bit about Cathy's background. Now, Cathy was a nun for a while. And then after you left the sisterhood, what did you go into as your career?
Oh, well, the sisters trained me and educated me, and I had my degree in education. So I went ahead and stayed in the classroom for a while. Yeah.
Right. Yes. So she is a perfect person to have here today. She's done a lot of counseling work. She is a consummate teacher. So when she talks, you can just really hear it coming from her heart. I just love to listen to Cathy talk. Cathy and I are here to discuss loving yourself. So Cathy, why is truly loving yourself so important? And especially when it comes to getting into a romantic relationship?
Absolutely. Well, loving ourselves is putting ourselves first. And I'm going to repeat. And for women, that is difficult a lot of times, maybe for some men too, but especially for women. And because we don't want to be selfish and we want to give, because I think that's a message that we get when we're growing up. Certainly I did. But the premise, I truly believe, is you cannot love somebody else fully and completely and unconditionally unless you do that with yourself first. And the second commandment Jesus gave us is love your neighbor as yourself. Now, what does that mean? It doesn't mean to be selfish. It means, how can I take care of myself? And then I can, be loving and caring with someone else.
That's right. You can't pour from an empty cup.
You cannot. And you have to treat yourself with honor and respect and kindness. That's kind of the bottom line. And that's not being selfish.
And I love that you've addressed that several times, because I think a lot of times women, and I think it happens to men also, are taught that if you take care of yourself, if you put yourself first, then you're being selfish. And we are not talking about stomping on others to take care of yourself. We're talking about truly loving yourself and honoring who you are at a soul level.
Exactly.
Now, how would you differentiate, Cathy, between self-love and self-care?
Well, I thought about this, and they're kissing cousins.
Oh, I love that, kissing cousins. Yes.
They go hand in hand. And I really believe that self-love is the result of self-care. Now, self-care is, what do I need right now? I need quiet. I need someone to sit and listen to me. It's finding that place that gives you meaning and makes your heart kind of soften. And that's taking care of yourself. And then that leads to self-love. And you have to find out, what do I need? And honestly, when I came out of the convent, and my story is really confusing, but I didn't know what I needed, because I was always doing for others.
Yeah.
And that's okay. That's okay to be that way. But I truly didn't know what I needed. And so get deep, go sit and be quiet and find out, what do I really want, and what fills my soul, and what helps me be a better person.
And I do want to thank you for speaking on that, because so many times, and you see it a lot whenever women have been wives and mothers forever, and their children start growing up and they don't need their time quite as much. And you find the moms floundering, like their whole life has been given to their children. And now what do they do with themselves? And then I see it a lot with my counseling part, my mentoring part of my business, where people's marriages start faltering because as women get older, they realize they want something for themselves. And either they don't know what it is, which causes problems, or their significant others aren't used to them saying, hey, I need this. And then I just want to warn everyone, once you start that path of self-love, if someone's not used to you doing that, if someone's not used to you taking time for themselves, some people will make you feel guilty over it and try to manipulate you and making you feel like you're selfish. It is not selfish. It is a part of survival in a healthy manner on this planet.
Oh,
Is making sure you're
exactly.
loving yourself.
Yes, exactly. That is so good. And and you start maybe to change because you're starting, and I love this word, you're really starting to be honest, where before you were just doing what you were told or doing what you thought would help somebody else or make them happy. And when you start to change, people don't like that. And I think they get afraid because they'll say, who is this person? But
Oh, thank you, Cathy. Thank you for pointing that out. That is absolutely true. There's fear involved because you are changing. What if you change into someone who doesn't love them anymore? Maybe you have a mom who has always been able to use manipulation to get what she wanted out of you. And now you're changing into this person who she can't manipulate anymore. Well, how is she going to control you? How is she going to get what she wants out of you? Not what she needs, what she wants.
right, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And
Now,
no, and as you were talking, I was just reading my notes here. Um, Taking care of yourself, and this is a segue into further discussion, is the basic foundation for a healthy relationship. Someone that you're in relation, that you have to do that to set that foundation. Or I think, I mean, it's happened to me, it'll crumble.
yes, absolutely. Well, you're right. We're going to get into that a little bit later. Yes. What do you think are some common misconceptions or myths surrounding self-care and the idea in the context of relationships?
Is
We did.
not being selfish. And I think women, especially, but a lot of us, when we try to put ourselves first, it's it's the guilt, and guilt serves no
Yes.
purpose. And
Yes.
maybe some shame. Guilt and shame are not okay. They serve no purpose. And so uh, to to live with, maybe put on the robe of, it is not selfish, it's self-care. And I can't and the other misconceptions is, okay, if I'm the floor mat, if I do exactly what this person wants, they're going to love me. That's what was my misconception. And I tried to think or figure out what they wanted, and that's what I tried to do. And where was I? I was at the bottom. I was the floor mat. I was the bottom of the heap. And
Absolutely. So that rolls into what I wanted to talk next. Can you give a personal experience how lack of self-love impacted a relationship negatively?
absolutely, all of my life, half of my life, I thought about this. Half of my time on this earth, I have given myself away. And for those very reasons, I thought I could make my mother happy by doing what I thought she wanted. And it took me a long, long time to realize my mom it wasn't going to work. I didn't have that kind of control. And then the church and the sisters, who I still dearly love, but I did the same thing. I
Mm-hmm.
tried to be good and do and try to figure out what they wanted. And then that's what I would do. What did I want? I didn't know because I never thought about it. And then it happened in my marriage. Of course, does that make sense? It followed right into my marriage because I had no idea what a healthy relationship was because I wasn't taking care of myself. So then I stuffed the feelings. I got resentful and it turned into depression and it was a disaster.
how you put that, because you covered so much. Oh my goodness. What you just said, that little sentence, we could unpack it into an entire podcast, but let's break it down a little bit.
Okay.
You were talking about stuffing down feelings. I mean, I see that so much. And yes, there is a certain amount of truth that if you choose happiness, choose happiness, choose happiness. Yes, that is absolutely true. If you choose happiness, you're going to gravitate towards having a positive mindset. But that's just in your everyday, oh my goodness, I stepped my toe kind of manner. We are not talking about choosing happiness whenever someone is belittling you or using you or not honoring who you are at a soul level. And taking your thoughts and wishes into consideration. And this is something very, very minor, but I'm going to bring up something that just dropped in. I don't know why it did, but let's suppose that you and your spouse are going out to eat. And they have said they're taking you to this restaurant. You are so looking forward to it. It's your favorite restaurant. You're looking forward to it and you want to go. And they have a habit of doing this. I'm not talking about something that happened one time. And you're getting all dressed up and you're ready to go. And on the way, like, this isn't the way. This isn't the way to whatever restaurant. And they say, oh, I changed my mind. But they knew how much you were looking forward to going to this one restaurant. They didn't care how changing plans like that was going to affect you. And I'm not talking about one time. I'm talking about a repeated choice to be inconsiderate of your wants. That can make a huge difference. And you just start feeling belittled. You start feeling, I love how Cathy said resentful, because I know that y'all listening or watching this on YouTube can see her beautiful energy. Cathy is as sweet and kind and compassionate in person as she sounds on this recording. So for her to say she'd gotten resentful, you know it went somewhere. I'm going to speak a tad bit, Cathy, and I know this isn't something, I'm throwing this one on her, about when you said you knew that your behavior couldn't make your mom happy. So can you speak a little bit about on our trying to make other people happy?
Yes, it was. I didn't realize all of my life since I was little. That was my goal, because she was not a happy person, and there were a lot of things that happened in her life that were very traumatic, and so but she couldn't get over those. But I was like hitting a brick wall every time, but I still kept doing it because I didn't know any different way. And then I wanted her to love me. So I thought if I tried to do what she wanted and to make her happy, that she would love me like I actually needed, but never got from her.
Mm-hmm.
Does
And
that make sense?
oh, absolutely, because I lived that myself, and I know a lot of other people did, and that made my mother happy. So my actions might not make her happy, but if I tried really hard, then it could keep her from going off the deep end, if that makes sense, and really blowing a gasket and spewing all kinds of unkindness on me.
Exactly.
So this can happen to people anytime throughout their lives. But now Cathy and I are talking about it from a standpoint of it happened to us in children. So we were really ingrained in trying to make other people happy. We didn't know any different.
Exactly.
And when you don't know any different, you attract. That's what you attract. That's your energetic vibration. Your energetic vibration is you are a people pleaser and you make people happy. So if that's what you're putting out in the world, that's what you're going to attract. So I am not surprised, Cathy, that that is the kind of relationship you were in with your husband.
Well, what I say is, and oh dear Lord, help me, I married my mother. When I got that aha, it was like, oh my goodness, I didn't know how to pick, and I didn't stand up a lot. I have so many stories to tell about that. And what you said about going out to dinner, that happened to me hundreds of times in my marriage, where absolutely I thought one thing was happening and I was so happy, and then it took another road when you said that. So, but the thing is, Christy, is it's control. We cannot control how someone else acts or feels. All we can do is speak our truth.
I love that. And I say all the time that there is free will. We're put on this earth as free will agents. And that free will encompasses all over the place. You have the free will to choose love and compassion. You have the free will to choose unkindness. And you cannot affect someone else's free will. They have to choose on their own. Now, can people change and become better people and allow you to grow into the person that you need to be with a self-love and self-care? Absolutely. But everyone who's been married or in a relationship any length of time knows you're continually growing in these relationships and changing.
Right.
The person you are today is not going to be the person you are next week. And I thank the Lord for that.
Right.
Hopefully, I'm not trying to person I was 10, 20 years ago. Now, how do you see, Cathy, self-love contributing to a healthy relationship? We're going to go to the opposite side of that.
The bottom line is, well, I mentioned it, honesty. If you're really honest and like you get disappointed because you thought you were going here and you go here and say, you know what, I never was able to say, you know what, I'm really disappointed. I just stuffed it. And then of course, then my resentment's going to come up. And when you stuff your feelings, you stuff them down and then you become resentful and then you become depressed, which that's what happened to me. So communicating that truth, even though it's hard to do, it was very difficult for me to say, you know what, Christy, I really didn't like what you said. See, I would never say that to anybody ever, ever until I was 50 years old. So it's like communication, speak your truth. Maybe you don't even know what it is, but get quiet and find out what it is so you can speak your truth. And then make sure with that person, you are on the same page. So many times, and that was my experience, I was not on the same page with my spouse. It was totally different. And anyway, the communication kind of, was not there. And then you talk about your real feelings, and then you get some help. A good way to do that is to talk to somebody that you trust, and then educate, read things, say, could we maybe go to this conference and talk about our relationship? There's all kinds of wonderful books to read and things to do and experts. If your spouse will do that, if your partner will do that, but if you're being honest, that sets that foundation for saying, I really would like us to do this because I'm not really feeling the greatest here. Right. And that's sometimes hard to tell people that you're in relationship with or even friends with. I didn't like that.
Yes.
And that's not saying you don't like them. It's saying I did. You talk about I'm feeling me. You keep it here. You don't point your finger because that creates
defensiveness.
That's right.
Defensiveness is you start saying, you did this, you made me feel, you did this. That is not a constructive place to come from. And I see this so much. I have a mentorship program that I run, and it can be 3 months or 6 months, according to how people want to come. And so much of it is talking about people's feelings. And so Cathy and I have focused a lot here on romantic relationships is what this podcast was meant to be about. But I do want to bring up briefly, I address the same thing with people in all kinds of relationships. It can be work relationships, a lot of work relationships, because people don't want to speak their truth. And a lot of women that they are afraid, they don't want to make people angry, they don't want to cause confrontation. And so I do a lot of mentorship, just helping people have tools to unpack the emotional component behind that and get to a place of neutrality so that they can evaluate a situation with information and wisdom instead of having that emotional reaction. Because I know Cathy kept talking about she stuffed it down. You will only do that for so long. And there's a couple of things that will happen. You're either going to explode, you're going to get sick, because you're stuffing emotions down. They're going to come out some way.
exactly. I call it, they'll come out sideways. And sometimes that's not pretty.
right?
And they will need to have a release or an addiction, not healthy behavior, overeating, over everything, because you got to get rid of it. You have to get rid of it in a healthy way.
And I have
Exactly.
seen a lot of that when you mentioned the overeating. I have some clients who've been able to lose weight because we help them process their emotions. You have to think about you're stuffing down the emotions, you're stuffing down the emotions, you're stuffing food to keep the
Yep.
emotions stuffed down
Mhm.
because, because sometimes it's painful to process these emotions, but it's just so beautiful on the other side when you can do that. Now,
And also, oh, go ahead.
oh, go
So,
ahead. Go ahead.
no, just also, it's that F word you used, as it is, especially in the workplace, especially with a good close friend. Fear serves no purpose. And oftentimes we are afraid, and that fear uh, just keeps us like locked in. And it takes a lot of courage to speak our truth.
Yes,
And
it
if we
does.
do it in, we can learn, like you just said, we can learn to do it in a proper way, not yelling at somebody, not pointing a finger. You did this, you did that. That doesn't work. But I feel really, and one of the words I said resentful, and you get depressed. And I just felt so unappreciated, worthless,
Yes.
because it was coming from a partner, of a person that, you know, I was chose for my life.
Mhm.
And did, oh, here's the word I was looking for. I felt so discounted.
Yes,
And
yes.
that is powerful in a relationship, to not feel like you belong.
I don't know. I'm not sure if you are on social media much, Kathy, but there has been some little short videos that have come out. They're called Reels or TikToks if you're on TikTok. And it's men saying, I don't know much about relationships, but have you tried taking her to get a Starbucks and to Home Goods, to look at Christmas decorations? And I know it's meant as a joke, but those little thoughtful things can be so powerful. Just taking your partner's thoughts, you asking them, where do you want to go for dinner? Or what can I do what do you want to do today? Just being considerate of your partner's feelings goes so far. Now, I also want to bring up, how do you see cultural and societal rules and how we live in our society affecting self-care?
Okay, that's a really good one. Yeah. And,
Uh,
we have changed quite a bit, but remember the Cinderella syndrome? I really think it's around. It was more when I was, growing up, but uh, especially as women, and I suppose men too, but looking for the prince, looking for the princess that'll be perfect, and more like the white picket fence and the kids and all this. But I think there becomes, and happily ever after. I know it's not so much today, but in my day, there was, especially when I came home from the convent, oh my goodness, the expectations. When are you going to get married and when are you going to have a baby?
oh,
It, I mean, it was pressure. It was pressure. And I, being a people pleaser, I wanted to be quite a, that regular, normal. And I never been regular or normal. And it's okay today, but then it certainly wasn't. And it was that pressure, because I come from Midwestern, down home. You get married and have kids and have and have a nice home, and your husband goes to work, and either you work or you stay home, and that doesn't work for everybody.
no, it
and the
really doesn't.
and those expectations.
And I know that Kathy's talking about it from when she was younger, but I see more of women putting those expectations on themselves.
Yes.
And I see a lot what I see a lot of, and I see this from men and women, I see what I'm about to tell y'all in both ways, is that someone wants other people to make them better or complete them. And that is not the way this works. You have to become the person of the vibration of whom you want to be with.
Yes.
If you're
Yeah.
trying to attract a certain partner, you yourself have to be of that vibration to attract them. I cannot reiterate that enough. I see it so much where people want to, they are not doing certain things in their life, but they want a partner who does. I see a lot of women who want the man who is successful, the education, goes to the gym every day, does all these things, but they themselves don't want to do it. I also see that in the men. They want these beautiful women who go to the gym and keep themselves in shape, take care of themselves, has a great job, but they themselves are not willing to do it. So you have to be of the vibration of the person you want to attract. That goes right back to self-love.
Exactly. Exactly.
You want to love yourself, because when you love yourself, you are thinking in a holistic manner what you're not giving of yourself. So then you're not attracting someone who's going to take advantage of that. You are whole and healthy and love yourself. So then you're putting out this vibration of self-love. So that's what you're going to attract. People who love themselves. And I'm not talking about in a self-centered way.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's kind of back to the self-love and your own self-worth and self-esteem. And I believe you cannot give that to somebody. That person needs to do the work. They need to get deep and say, who am I? What am I worth? And then you can role model it. You can talk about it. You can counsel them. You can encourage them. But every one of us have to get our own self-esteem. And then there's a couple ways that we can do that.
That rolls into my next question is, how do self-love and self-esteem, what is their relationship between those two components, the self-love and self-esteem?
Okay, well, get into action. And it's not for the faint-hearted. It takes some
It is not. Thank you, Cathy. It is not.
I mean, you got to do some work here, girlfriend. Yeah. I believe I believe in Joseph Campbell was back in the 1980s, I believe. I believe he's passed, but this is what you have to do. You have to get honest with yourself, and you have to maybe get quiet. So a lot of people that don't have this will get busy and do something, stay active. No, I think it's important to get quiet and then get some experts. But Joseph Campbell says, find your bliss. What is your passion? What do you love to do? What would you pay somebody to let you do that? Yeah, not get paid to do it. You would pay them because you love it so much. It's a heart thing. You get deep down and you find your bliss. And then I also believe to get to this point of self-love, you must have something that you believe in beside yourself. A power greater, whatever you want to call it, the universe, source, something greater than you that you can believe in, you can rely on. And then Joseph Campbell did an interview on television, and is Bill Moyers. I don't know if you remember him. It's some time ago, but he said there are hidden hands that help us.
Yeah.
It's whatever you want to see it. It's whatever world it is in, or what it may be someone in your life. For me, it was my grandma, and I have other guides, but believe in hidden hands. And then if you follow your bliss, Joseph Campbell says, that track has been waiting for you, and all these doors will open, and your heart will open, and you will be content and happy with yourself. Oh, then, okay, you're going to attract somebody that's happy and content with themselves, and then you're going to come together and work on, okay, we're going to keep working, because a relationship has to grow and change. Yeah. And so then you're setting yourself up to be successful. And it's okay. You finally get to that place. It's okay if you're alone, because you enjoy your own company.
Yes, yes, yes. It's a joke in my family that I absolutely do not mind being alone. When my husband travels every once in a while, people know, don't try to take my evening by myself and have me over for dinner or something. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in being with my own company in my house. I love my own.
Absolutely. Yes. Yes.
And I also want to mention that you were talking about the finding your own bliss. I word that in my mentoring. I do a lot of having people when they're feeling stuck or they're feeling especially sad to do something creative. And it's whatever they find creative. And it can be hiking, it can be reading, it can be writing, it can be cooking, it can be sitting outside in the sun. Kind of the same thing. Where is your bliss? Because that unsticks your energy.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And once you get that unstuck energy going, the momentum keeps it going.
And don't sabotage yourself by saying, oh, art, maybe art, or I could never. Don't sabotage by saying, oh, I could never do that. If it's back in your mind and you think, my gosh, I would love to do that, it would make what makes your heart sing.
Yes.
And we do, I think, throw some roadblocks by saying, oh yeah, I would like to do that, but I could never do that. Don't go there.
Try it. It's not about being perfect at something.
No.
It's about trying something. That's how I end up with a lot of people in my psychic mediumship classes, is they decided they needed to try something. And they heard me talk about synchronicities. And a synchronicity is if you're asking for help from the other side. Cathy mentioned that she believes in a higher power, as do I. Whatever your name for that is, your team on the other side will drop synchronicities in front of you. What is that? It's lighting your path. Let's say that you've been really sad lately, like you're just depressed, you're feeling stuck. And you've always liked journaling, but you never thought it would amount to anything. Then all of a sudden, the local community college is offering a little writing class. Or you have a friend who wants you to be accountable because she wants to start writing a book, or she wants to journal regularly and she wants you to be accountable to her. Those are synchronicities. Spirit is dropping in front of you confirmation. Yes, you need to start doing that. And when you get to that point of bliss, you attract bliss.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. And when you start on that track, like Joseph Campbell said, he said that track is waiting for you, and it will open like the synchronicity, and those doors will just fly open for you. But being quiet and getting into your own self, what do I want, and what will help that happen. If you're busy saying, oh, I've got a free night, so I'm going to go do this and do that, then the noise is too loud and you can't hear, you can't see.
You're right, the noise is too loud. I have a lot of times spirits will step up and they will acknowledge that they will hear the person who I call my client, but the person who's in front of me talking to them. And I was like, oh, your dad or mom, whoever is referencing that, you talk to them all the time. And then the spirit says jokingly, but not really. And if you would be quiet long enough, you could hear them talk back.
Oh, I love that. Yes.
But it's true. Yes, we get our mind going so much. We don't stop and
absolutely
listen to what is coming in. Who you're out there looking for a relationship, you want a partner, but you have all this trauma.
That's good. Yeah.
Practice self-love, but you're going to go out there and look for a relationship.
Yeah. Don't let that past prevent you from moving forward. Yeah. And that's interesting that you should say that, because it can, you can think about the past trauma and think, oh my gosh, I'm okay, here we go again. I'm afraid. I don't want to be hurt again. I don't know how to do this. You, again, sabotaging going forward. But what you just said a few minutes ago is, I'm not the same person. Thank goodness that I
Right.
was an hour ago. Thank goodness. I'm learning, I'm changing, I'm growing, and I now have tools, and I know where to go for a tool. I know where to go for help. And so put on your boots and get out there, get back on the horse. You know?
Now, we've talked a lot about the importance of processing trauma and self-love before going into a relationship. Now, let's suppose you have all this trauma and you are already in a relationship, a long-term relationship. Can self-love be nurtured while you're in a relationship?
Absolutely. It can be daunting. It can take a lot of courage, but with your honesty and, dedicated to being healthy. This is being a healthy, emotionally stable person that deserves a good life. Okay. So it may, I think you can work on it. It may cause problems. And like we said before, we'd be changing, and the people that we're in relationship with will say, what's up with her? What's
Right.
she doing now?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, another conference or whatever. You have to have courage to keep going ahead. And it may really help. The relationship may go up and better, or it may go down and disintegrate.
Yep.
I
And but
don't
I do
know
want to
if
tell
chance. Yeah.
Yeah, and Kathy's right. It could go either way. Can self-love be developed and nurtured in a relationship? Absolutely. But you have to realize that when you start becoming this person who is more vocal about their needs and wants, that and people aren't used to hearing it at first, you may get some pushback. And I still call, especially when you start putting up boundaries, you might get a lot of pushback. But either way, you are going to be happier. You might not be happier in that moment where you're working through the intricacies of giving someone someone giving you pushback, but you weren't happy where you were. You have to move forward to move to a point of happiness, and the people around you can come or not, but you are worth it. You are worth trying. You are worth the self-love. And I do want to speak from my own experience. I was married very young. I was 17 when I got married. My husband was 20. I'm still with the same person. So that was 37 years ago. You can imagine. Thank goodness we are not the same people we were when we got married. Now, has
Exactly.
there been a lot of give and take? Absolutely. But now I'm going to speak of Kathy's marriage, where she said she was a doormat. She tried to be a doormat as much as she could to make her husband happy. He wasn't happy, and neither was she.
No. No.
So if you continue your way of not loving yourself, no one is going to be happy in that realm
Exactly.
either.
No.
So now let's pop back over to my husband. Did it cause problems when him or I were on different paths of growth? It did. But we made the commitment of working through and giving each other the space to become better people.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah.
And sometimes, I'm sure I wasn't the most pleasant person when I'm processing something, or if he has given me space, he was probably wondering, why did I give her this space? Because
Yeah.
oh my goodness. Yeah, it was because sometimes processing trauma, sometimes self-love when we're on that journey, sometimes it's not pretty. But if your partner is supportive and giving you the space, then yes, you can develop a stronger relationship than ever before.
And it does work. It can work. One little segue.
Yes.
My husband, I truly loved him and did not want to leave, but it was like I felt like I was drowning, and that's a whole other story. But we we ended up being the best of friends, and he did change. Bless his heart. I think that's what it took, is me leaving. And he would call me and I would say, who was that person I was talking to? Because he did change.
Yes.
And people, that's the other word, the C word that people are so afraid of changing. When things change, they get turned upside down and people get afraid. And it can be, change can be traumatic, but in our case, we honestly got closer as friends, and being considerate of each other, respectful of each other, and honoring each other. As he was the father of my daughter, and I loved him for that. And
I want to mention how Cathy was talking about how much she loved her husbands. When I see relationships fail, it is not because of a lack of love. It is because of a lack of respect, typically.
That's the word. That's the word. Think about that. Yeah.
Just because you love someone does not
No.
mean that they are the right person for you.
Exactly. Yeah, you got it.
Cathy, I want to thank you so much for being here today and your words of wisdom. Y'all will probably be seeing a lot of her. I love having Cathy on. She just has so much wisdom and speaks from a place of having lived life on this planet.
I've got a lot of years, girl. Thank you for having me.
I want to thank everyone who is watching. I hope everyone has a blessed day.